Hello and welcome. Today I have a very special guest to introduce you to here, and her name is Hayley. She is our newest member of the RGA Network. Now, some of you may know the RGA Network is a collective that I began in 2020 of amazing astrologers that had studied with us for years, maybe over the last decade, and they had taken all of our classes, and then some of them have done private mentorship with me. I loved their work so much. I loved their reading so much that I said I wanted to offer them to join this collective. Now, Haley is our newest member, and I have to say, I was absolutely floored by Haley's reading. She gave a reading to some people on our team, and they were completely floored. They said, "Wow, Rebecca, you have to have Haley. There's no way that you can't bring Haley into the network." And I just had the best reviews from her as well. So Haley, I'm so thrilled to share your astrological wisdom and counseling skill with our community. Welcome. Welcome to the RJ Network. And I think it would be interesting to start off with everyone getting to know you a bit. So would you mind sharing your sun, moon, rising, and what kind of person that makes you? What kind of reader that makes you?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Rebecca. It's so exciting. I am an Aries sun, Taurus moon, and a Gemini rising. But my sun and moon are both in the 12th house. And, there's a lot of misconceptions around like what that means and, what is this mysterious 12th house? And I find that it took me many years to really fully understand what that is and, kind of what that makes me as a person, as an astrologer. And I always find that there's this kind of idea, this notion of like, the idea of like the abyss, you look in the abyss and the abyss looks back at you. And I feel like my readings come from that place, really deep soul level, where I can tap into someone's psyche and I can really see, who they are in the inner workings and how this kind of aligns with the cosmos. The good thing is I have a Gemini rising and it makes it so I am a natural communicator. And I kind of try to take these more esoteric or kind of like harder to understand concepts astrologically and really make them digestible and easy to understand. So, you walk away from my readings with a really full kind of great, I don't know, feeling of what these astrological things mean for you. Plus, I really want, this to be conversational, collaborative, like we're kind of on this journey together and I'm just your cosmic guide to make these things come to life for you.
I love that. I love that analogy of you being their guide on the journey. And people have said you're such a poet in your readings, the way that you really interpret the language of our skies, and also poetic but very digestible as well. And that's so important that people can walk away with something so usable and action steps as well, things they want to do with their lives. So you definitely bring it home with your Aries sun as well.
Thank you for
Um,
saying that. Yeah, well, I'm a writer, as like writer by day, astrologer by night. And I find that what I like to do is almost like write these mantras, these almost like cosmic taglines for people. So when they walk away, because sometimes I feel like, you have a reading and it's so much information and you're like, wait, what did I actually get from that? And so I think sometimes where, I really go in and I'll like try to like dig deep and like create these almost like taglines or mantras for people that when they go about their day or they hit that really weird transit or they have that moment where they're just like, wait, what did that astrologer tell me to do? They have almost this like phraseology that they can bring up that's going to instantly remind them like, oh yeah, she said to, make a huge change or stay put, or, communication is going to be a little murky. Don't, sign any contracts. And, trying to just reinforce that information in a useful way is something that really excites me.
you do that so well. I mean, I feel like I don't know about our listeners, but have you ever had a reading where you walk away and you're like, "Oh, that was TMI?" I feel like a lot of the skill of an astrologer is to really have hierarchy of what's important in the reading and what's not. And Haley really does do that. Just like, and it's also a fun journey having a reading with her. At least everyone also who has had readings from her on our team has said that they just really loved. They felt like they were on a journey as well, a journey through their own life. So I think it would be interesting to know how your background, not only as a writer, I'm sure you have a much more textured history as well. Um, how you came from there into being a professional astrologer and now with the RGA network today. So I think that arc of the journey is really interesting, especially for our people that are listening that also want to become astrologers too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up with astrology. My mom, like literally, like I think 2 days after I was born, she got me, my first natal reading, which was really interesting because this first reading had my son in the 11th house, not the 12th house. So it was like a totally inaccurate astrological reading. So I spent like a lot of my early life thinking I had an 11th house son. I don't know. Anyway, whole other story. But I, got my start just kind of being immersed in astrology and kind of always being very curious about it, but thinking it was kind of my mom's thing. So I kind of like went about, my esoteric studies by doing everything except for astrology because I was like, oh, I have to find a way to rebel. So I studied palmistry and I studied tarot for like 10 years, was a professional tarot reader, and really kind of immersed myself into that world. But I kept coming back to the fact that like all of the tarot cards are rooted in astrology. I couldn't run away from astrology. It was like it was following me. And I just was kind of self-studying for a really long time. And then magically, I happened upon Rebecca's classes and I saw that she was a New York astrologer. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to actually take my learnings to the next level and I'm going to see if I can just, really pursue this as a real thing. And, I started studying with you and it just clicked something in the universe. It was just like a spark and it all made sense. And I started really, viewing life through the lens of the cosmos in a way that just everything just like coalesced. And I just continued my studies with you and I took pretty much every class you offer and eventually embarked upon a really wonderful one-on-one mentorship with you and, really kind of like dove so deep into, every aspect of astrology and really tried to kind of incorporate my background as a writer and, kind of synthesize that into my chart readings. And here I am, guided by the stars, whether I wanted to or not. I couldn't fight it
Absolutely.
anymore.
You are. There's no fighting that. Right. So it's really interesting because even though sure I have my ways of teaching and sharing information, what I noticed really beautifully in the mentorship with you is really your own voice that came out through the readings and the beauty of your voice. Like I always hear anybody who comes through our schools, sure they have a bit of our DNA in it, and as far as they bring the readings. But Hayley, what I loved about you is really the uniqueness of your voice. And because of that, I also there's another announcement here that Hayley will be doing some sharing some of her wonderful astrology writing with us too. And we're all very excited about that as well. So we'll be sharing her writing talent. Also, you'll find that in the blogs coming up soon. And we do have also some other surprises in store along with that. Um, so, Hayley, I want to know as well. Uh, I know you've been giving an array of readings, and people been coming to you for all sorts of things. What is your absolute favorite part about being an astrologer? What's your favorite part about giving readings? What do you look forward to in the whole process?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the main reasons why I pursued occult studies and astrology, most importantly, is I love the idea that I can help empower other people to fully understand their makeup, because I think that there's a lot of things that, like once you really get a sense of your cosmic DNA, you really can understand like, oh, I think like this, or, maybe, I take a little bit longer to process this, or I'm, razor sharp mind, there's different ways that we synthesize. There's different ways that we come to these understandings. And like, there's nothing better than fully understanding your process. So if I can try to find a way to allow people to really like almost like see a snapshot of their soul, and to fully understand like what their purpose is, how they can better kind of relate to their partner. Like there's so many things that you can glean from an astrological reading, and so many different facets of what I can offer. And so much about it is really just understanding yourself. And once you have that, everything kind of like bubbles up to the surface from there. So if you start with a natal reading, you really get a sense of your core cosmic DNA. If you want to do like a love compatibility situation, that's going to also jump off from you, right? It's like your understanding of self and how do you kind of vibrate with this other person. And so that's kind of like what drives me the most.
And everybody is in your natal chart anyway, right? Your partner,
Exactly.
your friends, your family, they all come from the natal as well, right?
I just feel like it's like, like some, there's like a lot of different ways that you can approach things. But for me, it's like what you said, it's like the natal chart really is that kind of almost that roadmap, it's all in there. And I think that like everything else that we can do is like an extension of that place. But I always love to start in like who this person is, who's their core identity, what are they meant to do in this lifetime? We all can see that in the chart, but it's just, you just have to know where to look. And you need, again, a guide, someone to just be like, hey, I'm going to tell it to you straight. And that's kind of like, having an Aries sun, I'm going to tell you all the information you need to know, but I'm going to do it, as you said, in a nice poetic way, because sometimes it's, you got to hear the information, but you also have to know how can you, work with what you have. We all have, I thought that I had a really difficult chart growing up and I didn't understand it. And then I just realized I have a different process. And that's kind of what the beauty of astrology is.
Absolutely. And I remember years ago now when I mentored, when you were mentoring with me, and I remember sometimes I would throw up a random chart, and uh, the way you would key into it and just kind of within like a couple seconds bring out some really nuanced, interesting information that was so important to that person, that was not anything you could have garnered from a lot of books. And I think that's the thing here with astrology. It's like we can study for years and read all these books, but they end up being like a lot of cookbooks. And it takes a very skilled astrologer to be able to kind of look at the whole picture and get a sense of the rhythm and hear the music in it and hear the bigger underlying message that the chart and that person's here to bring to the world. You definitely know how to read that music and translate it with absolute grace.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, because that's the other thing is you kind of see all of these kind of little clues in the different pockets of the chart, right? But they're all kind of driving the same thing, like what you said, like almost like, this is the drums, this is, this is the melody, and they all work in, in kind of this synthesized manner. But again, it's like they're guiding you towards your purpose, your path, and more importantly, who you are.
Absolutely. So Hayley, I have one more question for you here. And I think it would be interesting for our listeners to also get a sense of your personal favorite topic in astrology. Is there something that you really love to explore, like a certain planet or a certain part of the chart that you have, or a certain kind of reading that you have a lot of more expertise or interest in as well?
Yeah, I mean, well, as I said before, I'm like such a lover of everything natal. Like again, like I really, really love like doing a super deep dive. One thing that has been really interesting for me too, and I know that this gets overlooked a little bit, is, really diving into people's moon signs. I didn't fully understand how mine kind of like occupied my chart, having a Taurus moon in the 12th house. And as I kind of got older and I got kind of more in my body into like who I am from a soul level, I really started understanding like, oh, wow, like maybe I do want to just put on a kimono and an eye mask and, like just chill out, where, my Aries sun was constantly being like, go, go, go. Like, let's, let's head out of the house. Let's do this. Let's get crazy. My Gemini rising wants to talk to 80 people, but my Taurus moon wanted to like put the phone on mute. There were all these things I started understanding about myself. And once I kind of like released this idea of who I thought I was, and I really embraced my moon sign, a whole different world opened up for me. So a lot of times through readings, like a natal reading, for example, I'll really try to dive deep with someone about like what that kind of core comfort is for them, and kind of also where some habitual kind of learnings could be, where there could be some habitual behaviors that might be holding them back as well. So, you know what I mean? It's
I
kind of
love
like a twofold.
that. I
Sometimes
love
our
that.
comfort zone is a great place, but it also is a place that could be hindering our evolutionary process. So there's a little bit of a puzzle there.
It's also right, this part that is sort of in the Western world, it's downplayed a lot more as the sun and the rising get a lot more airtime here because we're all
Mhm.
known for our accomplishments, what we do, how we shine. But it's true, if we don't feed our moon, we get sick. We don't live a life that feels actually worth living. So
100%. And it took me years to figure that out.
I'm so happy you came there, and I'm so happy that you are now a part of our community, Haley. I just want to give you a warm welcome into the RGA Network. And if you are interested in booking a reading with Haley, which I highly recommend, we now offer express readings as well as our regular standard and extra long readings too. So there's all kinds of interesting readings now you can check out on the link below. And I would love for you all to experience the magic of a reading with Haley. Thank you so much for hopping on, Haley, and welcome to the network.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Can't wait to meet you guys.